Now, in section 3.1, you talked about the angle pair relationships, corresponding angles, alternate interior angles, alternate exterior angles, and consecutive interior angles. Here are the characteristics again for those angle pair relationships. Corresponding angles, same side of transversal, one interior, one exterior, and non-adjacent. For alternate interior angles, opposite sides of the transversal, both are interior and they're non-adjacent. Alternate exterior angles, opposite sides of the transversal, both exterior angles, and they're non-adjacent. And lastly, the consecutive interior angles are same side of the transversal, both interior angles, and non-adjacent. Okay, so first off, how are those angle pair relationships affected by parallel lines? First one we're looking at is corresponding angles. And if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, line T here is our transversal, lines P and Q are parallel. And again, the triangles on the lines there, that remind us that those lines are parallel. So, if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then the pairs of corresponding angles are congruent. And angles 2 and 6 here are corresponding angles. They're on the same side of the transversal, to the right. One is exterior, one is interior, and they're non-adjacent. Alternate interior angles. Again, how are they affected by parallel lines? Lines P and Q are parallel. Line T is our transversal again. Angles 4 and 5 are alternate interior. Opposite sides of the transversal, they're both interior and they're non-adjacent. So if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then the pairs of alternate interior angles are congruent. Alternate exterior angles. Okay, again, lines P and Q are parallel, line T is our transversal. Angles 1 and 8 are alternate exterior. They're on opposite sides of the transversal. They are both exterior angles and they're non-adjacent. If two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then the pairs of alternate exterior angles are congruent. And then lastly, consecutive interior angles. Again, lines P and Q are parallel, line T is our transversal. Angles 3 and 5 here, they're on the same side of the transversal, they're both interior, and they're non-adjacent. So if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then the pairs of consecutive interior angles are supplementary. First example here. The measure of 3 of the numbered angles is 120 degrees. Identify the angles and explain your reasoning. So we have the diagram here. Again, here are our triangles, which identifies that those two lines are parallel. Here's our transversal. It intersects two or more lines at different points. So that's the definition of a transversal. This angle is given to you to be 120 degrees. So out of these angles, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, which of these angles would be 120 degrees? First one, the measure of angle 4 is 120 degrees. Now why? Because if vertical angles, then they're congruent. And the 120 degree angle and angle 4 are vertical angles, so they're congruent. So the measure of angle 4 is 120 degrees. Angles 4 and 8. The angle pair relationship that angles 4 and 8 have. They're on the same side of the transversal. One is exterior, one is interior. They're not adjacent. They are corresponding angles. So the measure of angle 8 equals the measure of angle 4, which is 120 degrees. And why? Because if parallel lines, then corresponding angles are congruent. Okay, and we have parallel lines, so therefore corresponding angles are congruent. And then lastly, okay, we have angle 4 and angle 8. The third angle, 3 of the numbered angles, alright, the third angle would be angle 5. The measure of angle 5 equals 120 degrees. And you have a couple different reasons you could use here. Angle 5 and the 120 degree angle, they are corresponding angles. And if you have parallel lines, corresponding angles are congruent. Or you can use that angle 5 and angle 8 are vertical angles. Okay, and vertical angles are always congruent. So therefore, angle 5 is also 120 degrees. So you have a couple different options with angle 5. And actually, you have a third option. Angles 4 and 5 are alternate interior angles. And if you have parallel lines, alternate interior angles are congruent. So that would also be 120 degrees as well in that manner. So there's actually 3 ways on how to prove that angle 5 is 120 degrees. Second example, find the value of x. Okay, we have 115 degrees, angle 4, and then x plus 5 degrees. Lines A and B are parallel. Here's our transversal. So first thing, 115 degrees and angle 4 there will have what kind of angle pair relationship? They are vertical angles. So the measure of angle 4 equals 115 degrees because vertical angles are always congruent. Now, the measure of angle 4 and x plus 5, they are consecutive interior angles. They're on the same side of the transversal, they're both interior angles, and they're non-adjacent. And when we have parallel lines, consecutive interior angles are supplementary, meaning they add up to equal 180 degrees. Combine like terms, so we get x plus 120 equals 180. Subtract 120 from both sides. X equals 60. And it asks us to find the value of x. X is 60. Alright, what I would like you to do, here's 2 problems, 2 examples that are similar to the examples I just gave you. Alright? Please try these in your notes. Come to class with the answers and or questions on how to do these 2 problems for tomorrow. Thank you.